This camera was released for the price point of $2,100 USD, and for what you get, I think it's a no-brainer. Hold your horses before you go on B&H and purchase this thing. Let's go through a list of positives and negatives. To get started right off the bat, this thing has a full-frame sensor with capabilities of recording in RED RAW. RED is a cinema camera company that was recently purchased by Nikon. They believed that they were going to run the company in the ground, but what people didn't realize is they were purchasing it as an asset to improve the quality of their video cameras. And now we are seeing the first product of that purchase. This thing has a 6K sensor. So first, I want to mention that this is actually a hybrid camera. Most professional photographers that you see in the pit of a sports game, they'll be using a Nikon. And to really sell the point that this is a photo video camera, right on the top next to the record button, you actually have a photo video slider that you can just press while you're using the camera and it'll switch modes instantly. I wouldn't use this camera in a professional photography setting, and I'll tell you why in one word: electronic shutter.
I got 2 words for you: Steve Nash and Chris Paul. Must-see TV.
That's more than 2 words.
You didn't say 2 words, you said quick to the point.
Now, obviously, there are good photography cameras with electronic shutter. Sometimes I run electronic shutter on my A7 IV when I'm at events, but you can't really ever beat a real shutter. Now, a good thing about the sensor is the sensor readout time, which I think also might compensate a little bit for the electronic shutter of your photos. The readout speed is 9.4 milliseconds, which is extremely good. That is one of the fastest in the game. For comparison, the FX3, I believe, is somewhere around 8.9. So we're looking at a 0.5 millisecond difference between this camera and the FX3, which is so marginal you will not notice. You will notice if you're using a camera like the one I'm recording on right now, the A7 IV, which has 24.9 or something like that. If I turn this camera and pan during a shot, you will not see a rolling shutter as compared to my little A7 IV. Now, I would like to talk about some more maybe opinionated things rather than statistical facts about this camera, such as the ergonomics or maybe the menu design. To start with a positive, the entire camera is the screen. It is only 1 inch smaller than the actual camera. You almost don't need a monitor. Maybe for something like a film, you would still want to use one for the maybe size, or, you know, obviously you still want a monitor, but you can't beat that. I don't think the actual size of this thing comes up very well on camera, so I'm going to go get an FX30 just to show you the sheer mass of this screen. Now, I'm just looking at this and my jaw is kind of on the floor. I mean, it's almost night and day. This is how much the screen has on a Sony screen. That's insane. I find myself squinting, trying to look at the screen, flipping it out, hoping that it's better, and, you know, having to end up using a monitor on the smallest of a shoot. This Nikon camera completely solves that problem. But I didn't say it was perfect. You notice something? There's only 3 buttons on the front of the camera. Now, besides doing that for lack of room, what they tried to do with the camera was make the menu mostly touchscreen. So what they want you to do is click this little hamburger drop and the menu, similar to a Sony menu, pops up. And you can use this little joystick here to run through the settings. The problem I have with that is I'm shooting a lot of run and gun events. I don't have time to look through a menu to change my ISO. The ISO does not have a dedicated button out of the box on this camera. Now, you can argue that when you're shooting in RAW, you want to keep your ISO at the same number depending on what you're shooting. And that is true, but this is not a cinema camera and you are not gonna always be shooting feature films on it. Now you have two wheel sliders on this camera, one on the back of it and one on the front. But on my A7 IV, I have 4 wheels to play with, which I have mapped to my shutter, my aperture, my ISO, and my white balance, meaning that I am twice as efficient as this camera. It seems like it'd be pretty embarrassing to walk into a new room, have to switch your settings, something starts happening, and you're sitting there touching your camera because of the touchscreen. It kind of makes you seem a little unprofessional, where when you're paying a professional to do a job, you want them to do it quietly and effortlessly. But I do want to hear what everyone else has to say about that. Now, this camera has 2 memory slots, one being a CF Express Type B and the other being a micro SD card slot. The inclusion of a micro SD instead of a standard size SD is something I haven't really seen before in a camera, and I'm kind of confused on the motivation besides lack of room. And if you're wondering the location, it's not actually on the side like most modern cameras have it. You're actually looking at the battery slot. In the battery slot, you see a CF Express and a micro SD slot. Now, I'm a professional videographer, but I occasionally take on photography gigs. And when I do those, my A7 IV supports 2 SD cards, simultaneous shooting. It seems kind of lopsided to simultaneously shoot on a CF Express Type B and a micro SD card. I've been seeing people online debate about if this actually matters or not, and if people really need to shoot on simultaneous cards at once, but imagine you shoot an entire wedding and your CF card corrupts. You only shot it on one. Now, a couple more speed facts. You have a USB-C, one singular USB-C. You actually have a micro HDMI, which I have not seen in a professional camera in quite some time. It's kind of dawning on me this drawbacks that have had to come over having such a big screen, because the internal parts are kind of squeezed to the sides, meaning that you couldn't have something like a full-sized HDMI wire. Out the box, this is an amazing camera that's going to deliver you cinematic quality for a low price point, $2,100 if you forgot, compared to something like an FX3, which in my opinion has a very similar quality and output. I think this is a no-brainer if you're on a little bit more of a budget and you can ball out on something like a crazy nice lens, which Nikon is known for having. Is this camera perfect? No. Is it close to it? Probably not either, but I think this is a step in the right direction for them. And in the future, I think they're going to be releasing some really insane mirrorless cameras with red technology, and I'm excited for it. That's all from me. Stay tuned, because I'm going to make more videos about this camera with some more intense testing. See you guys.